Like, subscribe, and activate the alarm. And don't forget to share. Outlaws of the Marsh, Chapter 18. Songjiang secretly helps War Chief Chao flee. Beautiful Beard cleverly fools the winged tiger. Inspector Ho continued to urge his younger brother to tell what he knew. From a document case at his waist, Ho Ching extracted a notebook. All the robbers are written down right here. How can that be? To tell you the truth, a few days ago I lost again at gambling. I was clean without a copper. A gambling pal of mine took me to a village called Anle, 15 li outside the north gate, and I put up at the Wang family inn, where I was able to raise a bit of change for the gambling tables. The authorities have issued an order that all inns must keep a register with proper seals, and that an entry must be made for every guest stating his name, place of origin, destination, and line of business, and that it must be shown to the local war chief on demand once a month. The attendant of the Wang family inn is illiterate, and he begged me to keep the register for him for a couple of weeks. On the third day of the 6th month, 7 date merchants arrived, pushing 7 carts. I recognized one of them as War Chief Chow of East Bank in Yunchang County, because once I stayed at his manor with a gambling friend. I took up my brush pen and asked, "What is your name, please?" Before he could speak, a fair-faced man with a mustache and goatee quickly answered for him.
"We're all of us named Li. We're from Haozhou Prefecture and on our way with dates for the eastern capital."
Though I was skeptical, I wrote it down. The next day, they left. My host offered me to take me gambling at a place in the village. On the way, at a fork in the road, we met a fellow carrying buckets on a shoulder pole. I didn't know him, but the innkeeper hailed him.
"Where are you going, Master Bai?"
"To a rich man's house in the village. I'm bringing him this load of vinegar," the keeper said to me.
"This is Bai Sheng, known as the Daylight Rat. He's also fond of gambling."
I made a mental note of it. Later, when I heard gossip that date merchants had drugged some travelers on Yellow Earth Ridge and stole the birthday gifts, I guessed at once that Ward Chief Chow was involved. Arrest Bai and question him, and you'll get the whole story. Here is my copy of the register.
Ho Tao was delighted. He led his brother to see the prefect.
"Any development on that case?"
"Some,"
replied Ho Tao. The prefect called them into his rear chamber and questioned them carefully. Ho Ching responded in detail. The prefect directed 8 policemen to go with the brothers that same night to Anli village. They compelled the innkeeper to take them to Bai Sheng and reached the wine seller's house at the 3rd watch. The innkeeper, at their insistence, called Bai Sheng to open the door and strike a light. Bai's wife let them in. They heard Bai Sheng groaning on the bed. The wife said he had a fever but had not been able to sweat. They hauled him from the bed and tied him up. His face was blotched red and white.
"That's a fine thing you did on Yellow Earth Ridge!"
they yelled. Bai Sheng denied everything. They bound his wife, but also refused to talk. The policemen searched the house. They noticed that the earthen floor beneath the bed was uneven and started to dig. At the depth of 3 feet, one of them uttered a cry. Bai Sheng's face turned the color of clay. From the hole in the ground, the diggers extracted a bag of gold and silver. The police concealed Bai Sheng's head and face in a hood and took him and his wife and the loot back to Jizhou. It was the 5th watch, and the sky was already light when they reached the prefectural office. They brought him before the prefect, tied the ropes around him more securely, and asked him who the brains was behind the robbery. Bai Sheng denied any connection and refused to name his confederates. They beat him 3 or 4 times, till his skin split and blood was pouring from his wounds.
"We already know that the chief culprit is War Chief Chow of East Bank, Yunchang County,"
shouted the prefect.
"There's no use denying it. Name the other 6 and I'll stop the beating."
Bai Sheng tried to hold out, but soon he couldn't take it any longer.
"The leader is War Chief Chow,"
He admitted.
He came with 6 men and inveigled me into carrying the wine, but I really don't know who the other 6 are. That's no problem,
said the prefect.
all we have to do is take War Chief Chow, and we'll find the rest quickly enough.
A 20 rack for condemned criminals was locked around Bai Shang's neck. His wife, also fettered, was sent to the women's prison. The prefect then issued an order directing Ho Tao to proceed at once with 20 crack policemen to Yonchang County and request the magistrate aid arresting War Chief Chow and his 6 unnamed fellow conspirators. Inspector Ho was told to take along the 2 captains who had accompanied the birthday gift convoy to identify the culprits, but warned the prefect he has to proceed quietly and not let news of the raid leak out. The inspector and his men traveled all night to Yuncheng. First, Ho Tao secretly put up his party in an inn. Then, with 2 of his policemen and the prefect's order, he presented himself at the gate of the magistrate's compound. By then, it was late morning, and the court was in recess. All was still. Ho Tao went into a tea house across the street and sat down to wait. As he was sipping some steep tea he had ordered, he asked the waiter, "Why is it so quiet outside the magistracy?" "The morning session is over. The attendants and the litigants have all gone off to eat. They haven't come back yet."
Do you happen to know which clerk is on duty today?
"Here he comes, now." The waiter, pointing. Ho Tao looked. Emerging from the magistracy was a man whose family name was Song. His formal given name was Jiang. His popular given name was Kong Ming. A 3rd son, he was born in the county's Song family village. Because he was short and swarthy, everyone called him Dark Song Jiang. And since he was filial to his parents and was a chivalrous man, generous to friends, he was also known the filial and gallant Dark Third Master. Above him, his father was still alive, though his mother had died early. Below him was a younger brother Song Qing, known as the Iron Fan, who, with their father, the Venerable Song, ran the farm in the village and lived on the fruits of their fields. Song Jiang was a clerk in the county magistrate's court in Yuncheng. He wrote legibly and well, and was familiar with administrative procedures. Especially fond of playing with weapons, he was adept at many forms of fighting. He made friends only in the gallant fraternity, but he helped anyone, high or low, who sought his aid, providing his guest with food and lodging in the family manner, tirelessly keeping him company and giving him traveling expenses when he wanted to leave. Song Jiang scattered gold about like dust. He never refused a request for money. He was always making things easy for people, solving their difficulties, settling differences, saving lives. He provided the indigent with funds for coffins and medicines, gave charity to the poor, assisted in emergencies, helped in cases of hardship, and so he was famed throughout the provinces of Shandong and Hebei, and was known to all as the timely rain, for like the rain from the heavens he brought, succor to every living thing. As Song Jiang walked from the magistracy with an attendant, Inspector Ho crossed the street to meet him.
Won't you join me for some tea, Sir Clerk?
Song Jiang could tell from his appearance that Ho Tao was in the police. "Where are you from, brother?" he queried courteously.
If I may have the pleasure of your company in the tea house, we can talk there.
"As you wish, sir." The 2 men entered the tea house and sat down. Song Jiang told the attendant to wait outside. Then he turned to the inspector. "May I presume to ask brother's name?"
I am Ho Tao, a mere police inspector of Jizhou Prefecture. May I dare to ask your name, Sir Clerk?
"Forgive me for not having recognized you, Inspector. I'm a small official called Song Jiang." Ho Tao fell to his knees and kowtowed.
I have long known your fame, but never had the honor of meeting you."
"You overwhelm me. Please, sit at the head of the table."
As an insignificant person like me, I wouldn't dream of it.
As a member of our superior organization and a guest from afar, you must, Inspector.
They argued politely for a few moments. Then Song Jiang took the host's seat and Ho Tao the guest's.
Waiter!
Called the clerk.
2 cups of tea!
The refreshments soon came, and both men drank.
What instructions do you bring from above to our humble county, Inspector?
Asked Song Jiang. I'll speak frankly. It concerns several important people here.
It couldn't be about a robbery.
I've brought a sealed order. I trust you will help me carry it out.
How could I do otherwise from an emissary from our superiors? Which robbery does it involve?
You're the keeper of the official records. Sir Clerk, there's no harm in telling you. On the Yellow Earth Ridge, which is under our prefect's jurisdiction, a band of 8 robbers drugged 15 men who were bringing birthday gifts from Governor Liang from Daming, the northern capital, to Premier Tsai and made off with 11 loads of gold and jewels of an estimate value of 100,000 strings of cash. We've caught up Bai Sheng, the accomplice. He says the other 7, the actual robbers, are all in this county. The Premier has sent an aide to our prefecture with orders to remain until we've caught them. We hope you'll give us every assistance.
Of course we'll apprehend the criminals and turn them over. We'll do that on your orders, Inspector, to say nothing of an order from the Premier himself. Who are the 7 named by Bai Sheng?
The leader is War Chief Chow of East Bank. To tell you the truth, we don't know the name of the other 6. We beg your utmost diligence. Song Jiang was shocked. He said to himself,
Chao Gai is one of my dearest friends. This crime he's committed is a capital offense. I must save him. If they captured him, he's sure to die.
Concealing his anxiety, Song Jiang said,
This dirty scoundrel! Everyone in the county hates him. So now he's came to this. We'll make him pay.
Please help us apprehend him.
There won't be any difficulty. Easy as catching turtles in a jug. Just stretch out your hand, as the old saying goes. But you'll have to present your order to the magistrate when the court is in session. He will read it and send men to make the arrest. I am only a clerk. I couldn't assume responsibility for an important matter like this. What if word leaked out?
You're quite right. Please lead me in.
The magistrate has been busy all morning and he's taken a short rest. If you'll wait a bit, court will be resumed soon. I'll call you.
I hope you'll help us accomplish our mission, come what may.
Naturally, that goes without saying. I must go home to attend a few things. Please, sit and rest a while.
Go ahead, Sir Clerk. I'll wait here for you. Song Jiang rose and left the booth.
If that gentleman wants any more tea, put it on my account,
he said to the waiter. He hurried from the tea house and told his attendant to remain outside the door.
When the magistrate resumes court, go into the tea house and tell the officer, I'll be back soon,
he instructed.
Ask him please wait a bit.
At his house, Song Jiang saddled his horse and led it to the rear gate. Quirt in hand, he mounted and walked the beast slowly from the county town. Once outside the east gate,
Giddy up!
He struck the horse sharply twice with his quirt, and the animal scooted like a rabbit towards East Bank. In less than half a watch, Song Jiang arrived at Chao Gai's manor. When the vassal saw who it was, he went in and reported. Chao Gai was drinking wine with Wu Yong, Gongsun Shang, and Liu Tong beneath a grape arbor in the rear garden. The 3 Wen brothers had received their share of the loot and returned to the stone tablet village. The vassal announced that the clerk Song was at the front gate.
How many people with him?
Asked Chao Gai. He's alone, and his horse is in a lather, replied the vassal. He wants to see you at once.
Huh? Something must be up.
Chao Gai hastened out. Song Jiang hailed the war chief respectfully, grasped him by the hand, and walked to a small building nearby.
Why have you come in such a hurry, Sir Clerk? You know my devotion, brother. I'd lay down my life for you. They've broken the Yellow Earth Ridge case. Bai Shang has been taken to the prison in Jizhou. He has confessed about you seven. The prefect has sent an Inspector Ho and several men, with orders both from himself and Premier Tsai, that all seven be apprehended, and naming you as the leader. Thank heaven the matter fell into my hands. I put the inspector off by saying the magistrate was sleeping, and told him to wait for me in the tea house opposite the court. Then I came galloping out here to warn you. Of all 36 possible solutions, the best one is leave. Get out, quickly. Don't delay. I'm going back now to take the inspector and his documents into court. The magistrate will send men this very night. You mustn't delay. If anything goes wrong, I'll be helpless. Don't blame me if I can't save you.
Brother, said the startled Chow Guy, I'll never be able to thank you enough.
Save your breath. Just concentrate on getting away. Don't linger. I must go back.
There are seven of us. The three Yuan brothers, Xiao Er, Xiao Wu, and Xiao Qi, have returned to Stone Tablet Village with their share. The other three are here. You must meet them.
Chao Gai led Song Jiang to the rear garden and introduced him.
Wu Yong, Gongsun Shang from Jizhou, Liu Tong from Donglu.
Song Jiang exchanged a few brief courtesies and turned to leave.
Look after yourself, brother,
he urged the war chief.
Get away quickly. I'm going now.
He mounted his horse at the front gate, flayed his quirt, and flew back to the county town.
Do you know who that was?
Chao Gai asked his three companions.
What was he in such a hurry about?
Countered Wu Yong.
Who is he?
This will surprise you, but if he hadn't come, all of us would be dead men.
Does that mean there's been a leak and our story got out?
Cried the three.
That brother came to warn us, at the greatest risk to himself. Bai Sheng has been arrested. He's in Jizhou prison, and he's named the seven of us. The prefect has sent an Inspector Ho and some men, together with a special order from the Premier, to request Yancheng County to apprehend us immediately. Fortunately, my friend kept the inspector waiting in a tea house while he rushed out here. When he gets back, the magistrate will issue his orders and send men this very night to arrest us. What shall we do?
If he hadn't informed us, we'd all be in the net,
said Wu Yong.
Who is our benefactor?
A clerk in the magistrate's court, Song Jiang, defender of the chivalry.
Huh? I've heard of him, but we've never met, though we live not far apart.
The other two asked,
Isn't he the one known among chivalrous men as Song Jiang, the timely rain?
Chao Gai nodded.
That's the man. He and I are very close. We're sworn brothers. Teacher Wu hasn't met him, but I can assure you, he's worth of his reputation. Since I became his blood brother, I feel that my life hasn't been lived in vain.
To Wu Yong he said,
Our situation is critical. How can we solve it?
There's nothing to discuss. Of all 36 possible solutions, the best one is leave.
That's what Clerk Song said. But where should we go?
I'm considering that. I'd say we should get together 6 or 7 shoulder-pull loads of possessions and join the 3 Yuan brothers in Stone Tablet. First, send a man on ahead quietly to let them know we're coming.
But they are fishermen. How can they accommodate so many of us?
You're not thinking carefully, brother. Stone Tablet Village is only a few steps away from Liangshan Marsh. The citadel on mountain top is thriving. When the officials and police go looking for robbers, they don't dare even glance in its direction. If the search for us gets too hot, we can always join the band.
Very good idea. But what if they don't want us?
We've plenty of gold and silver. If we present them with some, they'll accept us all right.
Since we all agreed, we'd better get started. Teacher Wu, you and Liu Tong take several vassals and a few loads and go first to the Wan family and arrange everything. Have them meet us. We'll be coming by land. I and Gongsun will join you as soon as we've settled things here.
Wu Yong and Liu Tong made up the purloined birthday gifts of gold and jewels into 6 loads and directed 6 vassals to eat a meal. Then the teacher tucked his bronze chain into his sleeve Liu Tang took up his halberd, and the group set out for Stone Tablet, shouldering the loads. The war chief and the Taoist priest began to closing down the manor. They gave money to those vassals who didn't want to go along, and advised them to find other masters. Those who wished to go gathered their possessions and prepared their luggage. Of that, we'll say no more. We'll speak rather of Song Jiang, who galloped back to town and hurried to the tea house. Inspector Ho was standing outside the door looking for him.
Sorry to keep you waiting so long,
Said the clerk.
a relative from my village kept me tied up talking about family affairs.
May I trouble you to take me in?
Please, come this way.
The two men entered the magistracy, where Shu Wenming was holding court. Song Jiang, with the sealed papers in his hand, led Ho Tao to the magistrate's table and instructed the attendants to put up a do not disturb sign.
Documents from Jizhou Prefecture,
He told the magistrate,
brought by Inspector Ho because of the urgency of the robber's case.
Shi opened the envelope and read the documents. He was shaken.
The Premier has dispatched an aide to wait in the prefecture.
He exclaimed to Song Jiang,
We must send men to catch the criminals. If they go during the day, word is liable to get out. Night would be the best time. Once we take Chao Gai, we'll be able to bag the other 6. Chao Gai is the war chief of East Bank and has a very good reputation. I don't understand how he could have become involved in such a business.
The magistrate summoned his sheriff and 2 constables. One was called Zhu Tong, and the other Lei Hung. Both were unusual men. After receiving instructions from the magistrate in the rear chambers, they and the sheriff got on their horses, rode to their garrison, and there picked over 100 men, including ordinary soldiers and walking and mounting archers. When night fell, they all set out with Inspector Ho and the 2 captains who had originally accompanied the birthday gifts. Every man carried ropes and weapons. The sheriff rode his horse, as did the 2 constables. They wore swords, bows and arrows, and each held a halberd. Front and rear, with platoons of mounted and walking archers, they left the town through the east gate and proceeded rapidly towards East Bank and the home of War Chief Chow. It was the first watch by the time they reached the village, and they assembled in the Guanyin Temple courtyard.
Chao Gai's manor is just ahead,
Said Zhu Tong.
There are roads leading from both its front and rear gates. If we attacked from the front, he'll leave by the rear. If we attack from the rear, he'll escape through the front. We must bear in mind that Chao Gai is a remarkable man. We don't know whose the other 6 are, but they are certainly no kindly gentlemen, and they're all desperate. If they decide to fight their way out, with their vassals helping, we'll never be able to stop them. Our only hope is to shout from one direction and attack from another, get them running around in confusion, then make our move. I propose that we divide our forces in 2 groups, with me taking one half and Constable Lei taking the other. I will go quietly with my men, on foot, to the rear gate, and lay an ambush. When you hear us whistle, Constable Lei, you and your group smash through the front gate. Arrest every man you can lay your hands on. That sounds alright,
Said Lei.
Only, wouldn't it be better if you and the sheriff struck from the front gate while I cut off the rear?
You don't understand, brother.
There are 3 possible escape routes from the manor. I've observed them often. I know every path. Even without torches, I could follow them in the dark. You're not familiar with all places Chao Gai could twist in and out of. If he gets away, it'll be no joke.
You're right, Constable Zhu, said the sheriff. Take half the men,
I'll only need about 30.
said Zhu Tong. He picked 10 archers and 20 soldiers and departed. The sheriff again climbed into his saddle, and Lei Hung placed a protective cordon of mounted archers around him. The soldiers were ranged in front. In the light of 30 or so torches, with tinned spears and halberds and hooks, they advanced rapidly in a body towards the manor. When only half a li away, suddenly They saw a fire rising from the central building, spreading a thick pall of black smoke and spewing red flames into the sky. Another 10 paces, and they saw 30 or 40 more blazes springing up everywhere around the front and the rear gates. Lei Hung waved his halberd. The soldiers behind him shouted, and they broke through the front gate in a body. Inside, the fires had turned the manor bright as day, but the attackers didn't see a single person. Then, from the rear of the manor, they heard yells and shouts and cries of, "Grab them!" Actually, it had been Jutong's intention from the start to let Chao Gai escape through the rear, and so he told Lei Hung to attack from the front. Lei Hung had the same idea. He too wanted to cover the rear gate and let Chao Gai flee. He had no choice when Jutong insisted that he make a frontal assault, but he only put on a show, creating a lot of noise and running about with the aim of hastening the war chief's getaway. By the time Jutong arrived in the rear gate, Chao Gai had not yet finished putting his affairs in order. Vassals hastened to report, "The soldiers have come! We must hurry!" Chao Gai ordered them to set fire to the manor. He and Gongsun, the Taoist priest, at the head of a dozen or so vassals, brandishing their halberds, dashed through the rear gate.
Try to stop us and die! Get out of our way and live!
They shouted.
Halt! War Chief!
Jutong called from the shadows.
I've been waiting here for you a long time!
Chao Gai paid no attention. He and Gongsun continued slashing furiously with their halberds. Pretending to dodge, Jutong left a hole in the besiegers' line. The war chief sent Gongsun and the vassals plunging through, and then followed, protecting their rear. Jutong pulled his foot archers from the manor's rear gate.
There are robbers ahead! Catch them!
He yelled. Lei Hung, hearing his shouts, came out of the front gate and also ordered his mounted and foot archers to give chase in various directions. He himself rushed about in the light of the fires, pretending to seek the fugitives. Jutong got away from his men and ran after Chao Gai, halberd in hand.
Why are you chasing me, Constable Jew?
The war chief called over his shoulder.
I've done no wrong!
Jutong saw there was no one behind him, and he dared to speak freely.
You don't know what I've done for you, War Chief. I was afraid Lei Hung would get muddled and not treat you right, so I fooled him into raiding your front gate, while I waited at the rear to ensure you escape. Didn't you see that big breach I just made for you? Yangsha Marsh is your only safe refuge. Don't try any other place. I'm deeply grateful to you for rescuing us. Someday I'll repay you.
Behind them came the sound of Lei Hung shouting,
Don't let them get away! There's nothing to be alarmed about.
Jutong said to the war chief.
Keep going. I'll draw them off.
He called back.
The robbers are heading for the east path! After them! Constable Lei!
Lei Hung and his men hurried east, followed by the soldiers. Jutong continued talking with Chao Gai while feigning to pursue him. The fact is he was protecting the war chief and seeing him on his way. Chao Gai vanished into the night. Jutong pretended to trip. He fell heavily to the ground. The soldiers caught up and raised him to his feet.
I couldn't see the path in the darkness. I ran off into the fields by mistake,
said Jutong.
I slipped and fell. My right ankle is sprained.
The main culprit got away, said the sheriff. A pretty kettle of fish.
It isn't that I didn't try, but there isn't much I can do in the dark of the noon, said Jutong. Most of these soldiers are useless. They're afraid to go after the robbers.
The sheriff ordered the soldiers to continue the chase, but the soldiers thought, those two constables weren't any use themselves. If they couldn't get close, what good can we do? They made a desultory show of pursuit, then came back and reported, in this darkness, we can't find which path they've taken. Lei Hung also returned after running a while.
Jutong and Chao Gai are close friends,
he said to himself.
He's probably let him escape. I have no reason to harm him. I also wanted to let him go. Well, now he's gone. Before I could prove my good intentions. We hadn't the chance of catching them.
He said to the sheriff.
Those robbers are fantastic.
It was already the fourth watch by the time the sheriff and the two constables reached to the front of the manor. Inspector Ho observed the soldiers straggling in. After hunting all night, they hadn't nabbed a single robber. He groaned.
Oh, what am I going to tell the Jijo prefect?
All the sheriff could do was to seize a few of the war chief's neighbors and take them back to Yuncheng County. The magistrate hadn't slept all night, waiting for the report. What he heard was,
The criminals have escaped. We've brought some of the neighbors.
the magistrate had them summoned, and he questioned them.
Although we're neighbors of War Chief Chow,
They said,
the nearest of us are separated by a few hamlets from the manor. The furthest are 2 or 3 li across the fields. He often had visitors bearing spears and staves, but we never thought he'd do this sort of thing.
the magistrate pressed them for information, determined to unearth a clue.
If you want to get at the truth,
Said one of the closer neighbors,
why not ask his vassals? Didn't they all go with him? Some didn't want to go. They're still here.
the magistrate immediately dispatched men to East Bank to apprehend the vassals, sending the neighbors along to identify them. In less than 2 watches, they returned with 2 vassals. At first, when questioned, the vassals denied everything, but when they were beaten beyond endurance, they confessed.
There were 6 of them who comforted with the War Chief.
They said,
The only one we knew was a teacher in our township named Wu Yong. Another man called Goksen Shung. He's a Taoist priest. Another is a big dark fellow named Liu. There were also 3 others we didn't know. Wu brought them. We heard him say there are 3 brothers, fishermen named Ren from Stone Tablet Village. That's the whole story.
the confession was recorded, and the magistrate turned the 2 vassals over to Inspector Ho and wrote detailed report to the prefect. Song Jiang made himself surety for the neighbors, and they were allowed to go home and await further instructions. Ho Tao and his men traveled all night and returned to Jizhou with the 2 vassals. The prefect was holding court. Ho Tao presented himself before him with his company and related how Chao Gai had burnt down the manor and escaped. He repeated the confession of the vassals.
So that's how it was. Summoned by Shang again.
Said the magistrate.
Do the 3 or 1 brothers really live where these men said?
Bai Shang saw that denial was useless.
Yes,
He said,
they all live in Stone Tablet. Ren Xiaoer is called Ferocious Giant. Ren Xiaowu is called Reckless Rash. And the Ren Xiaoqi is called the Devil Reincarnate.
What are the names of the other 3?
Wu Yong, the Wizard. Dragon in the Clouds, Goksen Shun. And Liu Tong, the red-haired demon.
Now we're getting somewhere. Return Bai Shang to his prison and lock him up.
said the magistrate. He ordered Inspector Ho to Stone Tablet Village.
Once we take the 3 or 1s, the case is half solved.
As a result, stars of heavenly spirits and earthly fiends gathered amid stormy clouds. In the Marsh Grit Fortress congregated a mighty battle host. What ensued from Inspector Ho's raid on the village of Stone Tablet? Read our next chapter if you would know.